I want to welcome everyone today to our episode of Soul Impact. With us today, we have Chad Winch. He is the owner of the podcast, The Barn. Chad, welcome aboard today.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
So, a little bit about this. I don't know if you know a whole lot about the podcast I have, but it's about the therapeutic quality of music and kind of basically how music's been a tool to save us from our darkest past. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and my questions depends on how much you say in your introduction.
Yeah, and I guess for the listening audience, how we connected was we were both both are in a Facebook group about podcasting, and you had kind of made a post about music and how it can help with our mental wellness at times. And for the listening audience, I'm a therapist by day and a podcaster by night, and a lot of the podcasts that we do is actually revolved around music and the how it can improve life comes up quite a bit, either with listeners and fans or even the artists themselves. So when I saw your post, man, I reached out to you, straight to you and said, hey, if you ever need somebody to talk about it, I'd be happy to. And so, yeah, we do. This is the Barn. I'm in the Barn studio right now, but the Barn is a lot of things. The Barn is more than anything a media group and a podcast network. We have 8 different podcasts that range anywhere from sports to music to variety to local community to dirt track racing to a lot of different things. And we've been at it about 3 years. And like I said, a lot of the stuff that we do is music. And so we talk music a lot and the benefits of music, not just enjoying it and putting something in your ears and enjoying it, whatever artist or genres you're interested in and into, but how it can make you feel and how you can, maybe even relate to some of the lyrics and even maybe I think even learn a little bit about yourself through music, which is definitely my story in my case. Just about myself is I've been a music fan ever since I can even remember. I remember being a little bitty kid and my mom was like cleaning the house. And one of my first memories of life is like hearing the records that she had playing while she cleaned the house. And I think that's where my true love of music started, but throughout my teenage years is really when I embraced it. I had older cousins who were kind of like brothers. So they were into music and it means so much to me, even as a 40-year-old now with a family and kids of my own and seeing their love for music. I'm a fan and I'm going to be forever a fan, but also understand the benefits of it. So I love your podcast and I was happy to be a part of it.
Well, I really do appreciate you being here today. So, you know, for me, a lot about this, I had a pretty rough childhood. My purpose was this is I kind of want to give back. Them people that think they're alone, and like you said, you kind of hit on where I'm going with this is the rhythm of a song, the lyrics. To me, it's and I do a lot of festivals, and I see a lot of artists, and some of them artists do covers. Um, because I also run sound. I have a DJ karaoke business. So I've kind of used that platform to start this. And just can you tell me a few times where music has been that thing that got you through your darkest time and kind of how it did that?
Yeah, I would say one of the reasons we launched the Barn was because I lost some very close people in my life, so I was going through I think what was grief, and sometimes I have amazing people in my life and my wife and my family and they just want the best for me, right? But sometimes it's just the perfect song or the perfect lyric that helps you get through a time. And I definitely relied heavily on music and continue to rely heavily on music when I'm going through that grieving process of losing people that are very close to me. And it's funny too because song can be a trigger as well, right? It can bring a sad feeling in, but it can also make you think of a specific time that maybe you were having fun or doing something or a concert you went to or an artist that you just really like, and it can trigger a feeling or an emotion or a memory that makes it healing possible. And I've definitely experienced that as well. I would say as a teenager, I was into metal as a teenager and still am into metal, and those lyrics can sometimes be somewhat aggressive, right? And that's how my feelings felt at the time. I was pretty pissed off and pretty angry at times. So, hearing a lyric that talked about, unity and brotherhood and staying together and having strength, it really meant a lot to me at that time. And it was like, I always think that the perfect song comes along at the right time when you need it. At least that's what my experience has been. And so those are just a couple times throughout my life that music has really been there for me when maybe some other things weren't.
So, is there a certain song you brought up memories? Is there a certain song that it comes on and it just brings up some of the happiest memories in your life?
Yeah, I think about not a super well known artist, but a rock band out of Chicago called Duna Hill, and I'm actually friends with the guys. And me and my buddies would always listen to it all the time. If we were at a barbecue hangout, just riding around in the car, we would always put it on because it meant so much to us. Well, actually, we played that at my friend's funeral that I was talking about, one of the guys that I lost, and so that song, it brings sadness, but it also brings joy because, it makes me think about losing him, but also it makes me kind of touch into or tap into some of those great times that we had. So it gives a little bit of mixed emotions. But I think hearing it gives me a sense of peace in a way, and it gives me a sense of, healing in a way. Mama, I'm Coming Home by Ozzy Osbourne's another one, somewhat similar to that before. Is like me and my buddy used to listen to that song quite a bit. But yeah, there's a ton of them out there. We could probably spend this whole podcast of me just listing songs that were important to me, but those are a couple of them.
Yeah. So, with your podcast, why don't you tell us a little more about that? You kind of hit on it a little bit, but kind of tell us what got you started.
Well, me and my wife bought a house about 3 years ago, and I have three daughters, so having like a man cave, which I'm sure you can probably see,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
has always been a part of my little getaway. I guess maybe my happy place. Come out and watch the game and hang out with some buddies. So I've always had that little sort of escape. And when we bought the house, I walked into what is now the studio here, but it was a woodworking shop at the time. And I'm not very handy, so I knew instantly that was going to be my man cave. And we started kind of piecing it together and putting things together. And I don't know if you can see, but what I'm sitting at here is actually a bar. It's kind of like an L-shaped bar. And one day I was on the other side of the room and I looked over and it almost looked like a set, like a podcast set. And it just kind of sparked that idea in my head, is like, maybe we should start a podcast. And I actually texted some of my buddies as soon as I had that thought. I was like, hey, what do you think about starting a podcast? And really didn't have a whole lot of experience, don't have a communications background. Like I said, I'm a therapist. So I knew the one thing that we could get on mic about and at least somewhat makes sense is music. We've always been music fans, me and my friends. So that's really kind of the initially how we, launched it. And then that became, bringing on another podcast. And then we launched a sports podcast because I'm into sports as well. And then somebody else would come on and they'd be interested in starting one. So now we have, like I said, 8 different podcasts and really a podcast network, which I'm really proud of. We get to do a lot of cool things. We get to talk to a lot of cool people. We get to interview a lot of cool people. Some of them, are national artists and some of them are local. And I think both are equally as important to us. We get to talk to people that are doing this for a living, making music for a living and changing people's lives, but also local artists that they're on the come up. They're trying to get more exposure. And sometimes we can offer that. And, I'm proud of both of those things.
So, who's been your favorite artist you've had on your show?
My goodness, that's a tough one. Geez, I can't even remember. We've done so many. Man, we might have to come back to that one. I might have to pull up the list of who all we've talked to.
You go ahead, do what you got to do. I won't tell. They might tell, but I won't. You mentioned music. For me, I was raised on the outlaw country. Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard.
Yeah. And so I will say this: we actually we are going to be talking with Shooter Jennings, who's Waylon Jennings' son. He has his own career, and I'm really excited about that. I'm a big fan of him, and I'm a big fan of Waylon. I don't think we've really talked to any outlaws, but we have talked to some older country artists. I sent a couple of them to you: Tracy Bird, Sammy Kershaw. Some of the newer artists is like Ian Munsick, and some. We've. I'm a country fan, so we've talked to some country people. It's been really cool. Again, I like rock, I like rap, I like metal as well. So we've talked to a little bit of everybody. I would say throughout all the genres. We have one of the podcasts that I'm directly involved with is called the Midwest Mixtape Podcast. And we put mixtape in there because we wanted to be a little bit of mix of everything. So it's not just one genre. We try to cover it all. On the non-music side, we're talking about interviews. One of the ones that I think got some of the most attention, or a lot of people talk about, is we talked to Steve-O from the movie, or from the, well, I guess movie too, but the TV show Jackass. I'm not sure if you're familiar or not.
Oh yeah. I used to want to do that when I was growing up. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. He was coming into town, and he was looking to do some press, and we reached out to his publicist, and they agreed to it. And I will say he was just as cool as you can be, and that meant a lot to a lot of the people that were involved in it, and me specifically, because I grew up watching those guys. So I know it's not music related, but he actually has a really incredible story about addiction and overcoming addiction and maintaining his sobriety. And actually now he's really into saving animals and having he's built a farm where he has a rescue farm for a lot of different animals. So his story is really, I mean, I know people tune in and they see him doing all this silly stuff, but his story is really incredible. And we found that so many times talking to people, is everybody's story is so unique and so cool at times. And we want to highlight that. So anytime we get a chance to talk to anybody, we're thrilled about that. But Steve-O was a really cool one.
Oh, I bet I probably would have been a little starstruck. I ain't gonna lie. So they ain't gonna lie. That's kind of where I want this thing to go. I want it based upon music mostly, but not necessarily has to be someone that is an artist. Because we all got that one person, that you hit on it earlier. The lyrics of a song. I was in the middle of my divorce and a song came on the radio, and I was like, all right, I'm good. Let's go. So it's whether the moments, like the healing moments. Sometimes it's okay to use the lyrics to heal, and I do. I used to be strictly country. I ain't going to lie. And then I become a DJ, and I had to realize that it's okay to play something other than country. Not everybody likes, the Waylon Jennings, Conway Twitty, Dolly Parton, not everybody likes that kind of stuff. So I had to actually research, all right, what's up and coming. So now it's like, all right, well, here's this person, and we're going to throw this out here. So with that, and you can tell, like as a DJ, when you're playing songs and you see them people kind of sitting in the back, mopey. And a good one, a good crowd song is, Never Fails, the Cha Cha Slide or the Cupid Shuffle. Those songs on 9 times out of 10, if they're not dancing, they're smiling.
Yeah.
So, and that part of that is why I wanted to pursue this. And, to get people like you, and, I had a good friend of mine, Bubba Stars, on. He was actually my very first podcast I did. He kind of got the ball rolling for me because I too had this vision of, hey, I want to do a podcast. I want to put it out there how music can help you. And I was kind of talking to him, and he says, well, why don't you? I said, because I know absolutely nothing about this. And he's like, well, I tell you what, I'll help you. And he has a big podcast network himself. He does a podcast called The Scene Projects, and he actually called me up and he's like, hey, I want you to do this. I'm going to help you do this. I'm not taking no as an answer. I'm going to push you. So, and sometimes that's what it takes, whether it's in the music industry and, the addiction, whatever it is, you got to rely on music, whether you're in the middle of your addictions or songs that's going to push you through that, and the people that are around you that are going to encourage you, like I said, my friend Bubba. So, what do you see? Where do you see your podcast going?
I've been asked that question. Go ahead.
Not so much your podcast. Let me rephrase that. Your network.
Yeah, so every year we've been lucky enough to grow more and more each year. I just want to see the growth happen, but growth not in the meaning of, listeners and followers and all that. I don't get too hung up on that. I just want to see us get better. And whether that's the quality of the work that we're doing, our interviewing skills, our conversations, the artists that we're talking to, that we're highlighting them. I just want to see that growth. That growth is really important to me. And we try to lead with those values with the whole network in general. It's easy to get caught up in sponsorships and how much money can I get for this and that. And because the podcast world is a business now. And we run it like a business, but we're not hung up on the numbers. We don't get hung up on the dollars and this amount. We just want to put out good quality stuff, and we want to be better at doing it. And I feel like we have been within since we launched it. I'm pretty proud of where we're at now, but I also am forward thinking, or I like to think of myself as forward thinking. And, we're kind of always continually looking at the next thing. And, I don't know where we'll be in a year or so or longer, but hopefully it's forward and it's upward moving.
So, if someone wanted to find your network, where could they find you at?
Yeah, we're on most of the socials. I would say a lot of our focus is on Facebook, just because it seems like everybody has Facebook. We try to stay young on the Instagram and the TikTok, but it's just, I'm in my 40s, so Facebook is where I go. But our YouTube channel is the Barn Podcast Network. We have our own website, thebarn.media. That's where you can find all the different podcasts. Variety is really important to us as much as we are music and sports focused. We want to, that's just my world. That's the world that I live in. We want to offer things. We also have Bible Time at the Barn, which is a religious and Christian based podcast. So we want to offer things to our community and to, our listeners and viewers, that there's something that they might catch on to. And the idea is, maybe you watch one podcast and then it kind of brings you over to another one on our network and you enjoy that one as well. So, being united and being, a strong community, which is something we're a part of. We're in the Farmington area. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that area.
You're about an hour and a half from me.
Okay. So we have a really good music community in this area. We have a ton of talent, and we're lucky in that regard. So we have artists on all the time. They'll come in and they'll do a song or two, and they'll tell their story. And it's been neat. I think over the years of seeing some of those artists grow with us and us grow with them, us being just as important to them as they are to us, because it's really our life, our livelihood, and our bloodline. So, trying to give back to our community in that way and give back to people that, work hard and they care about their art and they want to do good and they want to have their career, progress just like anybody else. That's something that obviously we enjoy. We take away with so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially with me, like I said, I do a lot of festivals, and I see a lot of that myself. I help run sound, so I see a lot of that. You get these up and comers, and the amount of heart they have. I mean, and we're in a society where a lot of these places have these you pay to play, and I'm not knocking that. You got to do what you got to do, but that just shows how much heart they have to go out there and get their music heard. And they're paying to play to crowds. I mean, and people don't realize that a lot of venues they charge to the artist to play a song and play a set. Well, and I've had some that over the years that I have become really good friends with. There's a guy named Storyteller that he is an amazing artist. He is an amazing artist, and the talent he has. Hold up a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, sorry about that. I had to pause. But no, a lot of that is, you tell the rawness that people, these artists, they put that the roughness and the raw and the heart, and whether they realize it or not, that I've seen people all sides of it, on the karaoke side, on the that they don't believe in themselves enough to actually go out and get it. Like, So, um, so bring it back to you. What's been your biggest obstacle in your career?
As a podcaster, would you say?
In general, therapist and podcaster, I think them two go hand in hand. You got a lot more gut than I got. I couldn't do it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I would say that I think being a therapist and really conversation is kind of what I do with my living, right? And trying to help people. I don't think it's all that different from what I'm doing when I'm behind the mic here. I talk to people and try to highlight their story, and also, if that can help somebody along the way, that's even bonus. I'm very passionate about what I do. I think most people that know me well would say that. We put we put out a lot of content, and we're pretty proud of the amount that we put out and the consistency that we put out. Just helping people. I always say I'm the luckiest guy in the world, because as my job, insurance companies pay me to help people, which is something I would do anyway. On the podcast side of things, it's not all that different. We're trying to help people. We're trying to help bring awareness to an event, to a artist, trying to help them tell their stories. And I don't think it's all that different. Maybe that's why I enjoy it so much. As far as obstacles go, as far as obstacles go, it's really the technical side of things that have been kind of difficult at times. I'm technical enough to just get by, and we've had so many challenges throughout the years and throughout many of the interviews that we do, because we try to post at least 6 new things a week, and definitely hit 5. And I don't think we've ever missed that mark, even during holidays and times where there were lulls. We've always put out new content, and with that, putting out that much production, you can kind of come into some technical challenges. And I only feel like we're at a pretty good spot at it now. I like our audio. We need some equipment upgrades. We need some cameras and things like that, and new laptop. This one's old as dirt. I don't even know how it's doing what it's doing right now. But I would say the technical side of things can be difficult at times with editing, and uh, just really, like I said, I know enough to get by, but there's times where I need to lean on other people and say, "Hey, can you help me out here?" Because I'm in over my head at times. But I feel pretty good and pretty confident where we're at right now.
See, I've realized that too, because like I am not an editor by at all, and like my first couple ones, I just kind of threw it up there. I had no cover slide, no nothing. I mean, I'm learning as I go. I mean, so, and I think it's kind of cool to see, and I'm sure you can see it with your own podcast from where you started 3 years ago versus today, you know.
Absolutely. It makes me cringe to go back and watch some of that stuff. In fact, I don't do it. But also, when I do it, or when I happen to stumble on something old like that, it makes me appreciate the journey. It makes me appreciate the growth, and that we are getting better than before. We're not perfect. We don't have it all figured out. We've hardly made it. But we have grown just as a network in general. So that's always something I can, I guess maybe hang my hat on a little bit and be proud of, is that we have gotten better.
Yeah, I can say I kind of went back and you know I'm a little envious. I ain't gonna lie, to see where you come from to where you are now. It kind of gives me hope, like that it's okay to look a little chaotic here in the background. It'll come in time. You know, uh,
I think there's a realness to it in that sense, right? Like, I can hear your daughter in the background, and that actually makes me feel so good in my heart, because my daughters would be doing the same. I just have the door locked where they can't get in, right?
yeah. I mean, I'm trying really hard. I really am. So, but you know, and that's the thing with music. Like you said, you brought up family. You know, it's so family driven that I find new music that I like from these local artists, and I play them in my truck. You know, hey, And basically, it's just the love of it all, the rawness. To say that it's going to be perfect every time, you know what? If it's not perfect, that just shows the one that really needs help. Hey, it's okay that my life isn't together 24/7, whether it's this guy's daughter coming on a podcast completely unscripted or having a breakdown.
I think
Uh,
I think we talked when we very first connected. We talked about men's mental health. I think a little bit on the phone, and that's something that's pretty important to me. Just in general, is like guys having vulnerable conversations and talking about feelings and emotions, and how that can affect our lives, right? Because we're supposed to be these big, strong, tough guys that we walk around and we don't have any issues and we don't, have these emotions and we don't cry and we don't express ourselves in those ways. And that's just a caveman way of thinking. And we have to get past that. So I think having these conversations is important for people to see and be like, oh, he went through that thing and I kind of feel that way too. And this is what helped him. Maybe it'll help me too. So in a way, it's very communal, right? Where it's we can learn from each other. And I think that's a big part of it as well.
yeah, you hit on it, and you couldn't be more accurate. I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself. I was raised where suck it up, men don't cry, deal with it. And I could say a lot of that caused issues, where I wasn't necessarily I wasn't man enough to cry. It was I was always told men don't cry, so and also the rawness of the love, the heart of everything, is the way I show my heart. Anyone that knows me, they can tell, and I'm sure you got them people around you that can identify what I'm getting ready to say, that when you're down in a lull and you're upset and your world's falling apart and you fake that smile, you got that core group that's going to say, all right, Chad, what's going on? Don't BS me. So, and that's what I'm trying to instill them values in my daughter, that it's okay to not be okay, and sometimes, and it's not just men. Society in general has put this quote on it, suck it up, that everyone, you know, they put these walls up because in order to put this wall up, they don't have to let you in and they don't have to deal with their garbage that they're going through, you know. And I've realized over the years, I'm 35. So I realized a lot of stuff that, and not to knock my mom. I was raised by an amazing single mother. Not to knock her. But there's a lot of things that I wasn't showed. And so now that I'm in this position I am in, whether it's these festivals or my day to day, my business, I'm able to take that and I show that love to everyone, and I use music. I use music as a tool to do that, and whether it's sorry, whether it's the ability to provide a talent. Not everybody has a talent to talk about music. Not everybody has a talent to do what you do and talk about sports and Bible time or whatever it is you're talking about. Not everybody has that niche, and that's where we've got the ones that are weak in this area. All right, I got you. And music is that big source, that at the end of the day, you're able to say, all right, I've got music and I'm going to be able to help Chad through the song. Oh my goodness, Chad, you're going through this. Listen to this song, buddy. This will help you through this situation. I was going through the same thing, and this song was my release. So, and I've realized that sometimes it's okay to not have the answers. You know, whether it's in my business, in my podcast. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to develop a friendship here, you know, by the much we've talked and stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be things that I'm going to reach out and say, all right, Chad, I'm in over my head. What do I do? You know, and that's where, you know, professionals got to link it aside, put all their differences aside. You know, whether, you know, for me, I've had incidents in the last couple of weeks where I've been attacked by another business owner. And I've had to push it off, and I found music to help me through that. So, you know, so right now, we're going to take this a little different direction. What would you say the anthem of your life is right now?
You know what? I'm really at a place where it's so nice in that my oldest daughter's 15, and I'm happy to say that I think all three of my daughters are music fans. I know they are, but I think they probably get it from me more than they do my wife, and I'm happy that they have inherited that from me. You know, I never forced anything upon them. You know, I wanted them to find their own way, whatever that is. But I can truly say that they love music, and I'm happy about that because I know what music meant to me when I was that age, but also continues to mean with me. And one of the greatest joys of my life right now is that I get to share some of the music things that we do, whether it's going to a concert or covering an event or interviewing an artist. I get to share that specifically with my oldest daughter, Melody, who's 15, but my younger daughters as well. So to be able to share that with them, something that meant so much to me and continues to mean so much to me, and seeing how much it means to them as well. You know, they make fun of me because I'm the old guy, so all these new artists, I don't know, you know, they kind of put radar artists on my radar that wouldn't normally be there because I'm a little out of touch. You know, I'm like you, I could easily put on some Waylon Jennings and just sit here all night. But to kind of push that boundary and open my eyes to new artists, new ideas, new genres, new ways of doing things keeps me youthful in a lot of ways. But also, I get to share it with my family, which ultimately is my number one priority. My career is very important to me, both the therapist world and the podcast world, but on it, you know, I mean, just like anybody else would say, family's number one. So to be able to share what I'm passionate about and things that have helped me with my family, that's truly a blessing that I couldn't replace any other way. And I'm so happy that I'm able to do that.
So, is there a probably going to get ready to wrap this up? So, I'm going to ask a couple more questions, but the first one I'm going to ask is there an one advice that you could give to someone in the podcast aspect that wants to go out and say, hey, I want to start a podcast? What advice would you give that person?
Just give it all kinds of effort. And kind of like we touched on earlier, is it's not going to be perfect. You know, just continue to put out pieces of work, continue to put out podcasts, even though it's not perfect, even though, you know, it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. It's worth it because you're getting better every time you do it. Just like anything else, you know, it's sort of that practice thing. You have to practice to be good at something. And not that we're there, we're continuing to practice. But if I did have a piece of advice, it would be that. And I would say stay as professional as you can. So if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you do it, you show up on time, you're responsible with the content, and you're passionate about it. You know, I would never start a podcast where it's not something that I couldn't easily just talk about with my buddies for an hour, you know, because you're talking sometimes about subjects that you might not be fully aware of or fully knowledgeable of. So you want to at least have that base knowledge to carry on the conversation, especially when you're the interviewer, right? I know that your responsibility, because I've been on the other side of this, is to keep the conversation going, you know, and you have the daughter that's got your attention and you're trying to keep everything in line. It's a lot to do. So, you know, to be able to talk smoothly and have good transitions, all of that stuff is important. So I would say more than anything, just be consistent. If I was giving somebody advice, be consistent about putting out your product, whatever that is, if it's once a month or once a week, just be consistent with it, because in that you're getting better yourself.
Yeah, see, for me, I wasn't necessarily like directing that towards me. I don't want you to think that. It's just, it's kind of to see where you've got your start. Because, like I said, I've kind of went through your YouTube channel and kind of because I was going to bring you on, and I've known for a while that we were going to do this thing. So, is there a moment to where you heard a song that absolutely broke you and allowed you to completely heal from whatever that you didn't realize that you had there?
Yeah, I'm going back to losing one of my best friends when I was pretty young, probably 20 something. And a song that we listened to a lot was Mama, I'm Coming Home by Ozzy Osbourne. And for a number of years, I couldn't even hear that song. If I heard it on the radio, I'd turn it off. Or if somebody started playing it, I'd ask them to turn it off. And didn't ever want to hear it. And then I don't even remember the exact moment, but at one point I had heard it or listened to it, and now it brings me fulfillment in a way, because it reminds me of my friend. So that's a moment that I'll carry with me the rest of my life. And he's been gone a number of years, and that feeling of hearing that song um, has changed over time, which is interesting, because for a number of years I hated that song because it reminded me of my friend's funeral, right, or saying goodbye to him. But now I get to enjoy it. Now I get to embrace it. When I hear it, it actually brings me happiness in a weird way. So I would say, having that sort of journey with music. I've also had this, and many artists have brought this up too, is like the song wasn't right for me at the time, but then I would hear a song, same song, but my life had changed and it meant something completely different to me at that time. So it's interesting how music can sort of flow into your life at the right time. I think Casey Kasem, the famous radio guy, he said, music is the soundtrack to our lives. And man, I couldn't have said it better. And I think of that quote a lot because I hear a song and it reminds me of being a teenager. And I hear a song and it reminds me of my wife. And I hear a song and it reminds me of my friend. And these are chapters in my life and different points in my life, and it's all music, but it becomes the soundtrack to our lives because there's specific moments in my life that I can relate to that song, to a moment or to a time or to a person, and it starts to tell the story of my life. So there's been a number of them, but that's definitely one of them. And I think also, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is when I share a song with somebody, it means a lot to me. So if I'm sharing a song with you, I love you. I think a lot of you, because it can be so sort of intimate in a way of like sharing a part of yourself with somebody. Hey, this song means a lot to me or meant a lot to me. And I think it might mean a lot to you too.
Not me trying to talk with the microphone muted.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
but yeah, I mean, you've got the rawness of it. For me, I completely agree with what you just said. For me, one big one was that it's an not old song, but it's that song backwards, and it talks about that's what you get when you play a country song backward. Get your house back, cat back, dog back. It goes through the whole list. I couldn't listen to that song for a long time because for that reason, it was played at my grandpa's funeral. So, and I was really close to my grandpa, so that was like. But now it's like, man, I remember sitting outside at a bonfire and him telling stories. So, and it's part of, and that's where I want this thing to go is that it's okay. You may have to hear a song 5 times before you heal from this song, but initially that's what I want from this podcast is I want people to be able to heal. I want people to be able to heal from whatever they're going through, whether it's a situation like yours where you lost your best friend or a situation like mine where I've been gone through a divorce, and we all got we all got the garbage we face in our lives. You know, music for me was the thing that kept me going. It motivated me. So you almost got to allow an open mind when you, even a new song. Well, I don't like this artist, so I'm not going to listen to this song. Okay, you may not like this song because you don't like what he stands for, but not every song is going to be the same way. You know, there's going to come a point in that artist's lives where his heart has changed too. So, I mean, that's the thing about music. It's constantly evolving, you know, whether it's, like you said, whether he's involving what you need from it. You know, there's a quote, and I don't remember for the life of me who said it. It's, I'm probably going to butcher it, so don't. But it talks about one person with a belief is equal to a force of 99 with just a thought. And maybe not the exact quote, but is it along the lines of that? Used to be my favorite quote. And honestly, that's what pushed me through everything. And, you know, the music and then that, you know, because you got to believe, whether it's your business, how you raise your family, now my podcast, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in wholeheartedly that, honestly, if I didn't believe in myself, and I'm sure you could speak in the same, if you didn't believe that your podcast was going to go anywhere or do anything, you would not have continued.
Yeah, sure. Can I tell you a quick story?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You're asking about a specific song, and it was hard for me to think of one, but I thought of one. And this this story kind of represents where we're at and where we've kind of come from. There's a song called Knuckleball Prime Time. It's by a somewhat well-known artist, but he's not a hugely well-known artist. His name is Willie T. Taylor. He's a singer-songwriter, and he actually, I think, lives in Nashville now. So our sports podcast is called Knuckleball Prime Time, and it's named specifically after this song called Knuckleball Prime. So I don't know how much you know about sports, but when you're a pitcher, like a major league pitcher, your fastball is something, it's like a young man's game, because you can eventually wear your shoulder out too much where you have to change the pitch to stay relevant in the game. Okay. So that song really struck to me because I'm in my 40s and I'm trying to play a young man's game. So I consider myself a knuckleball kind of guy rather than a fastball. I don't have my fastball anymore. It's more of a knuckleball. Well, we launched that pretty early on in our development. 2 years later, the guy that sung that song actually came to the studio in person here, and I have a flag of our sports podcast. It's got Knuckleball Primetime on it, and he signed it and put some stuff on there that was really meaningful to me. But it was a full circle moment in that I launched a whole podcast named after his song because it meant so much to me and how it related to my life. And 2 years later, the guy who wrote the song is in the studio with us. And that just means so much to me. And I think it's the power of, you hear about manifesting things a lot of the time. If anything, if I have anything going for me, it's that no is a word that I struggle with. You're talking about, the power of people having thoughts and ideas, but actually put it into action. If you would ask other people on the network, they would say, Chad's not perfect. He's got tons of flaws and he's not good at a lot of things. But one thing is, nothing's off limits. Let's shoot for the moon. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, if it's not perfect, well, at least we did it. At least we had fun doing it. So I think that's helped drive the network and drive the media group. And my own podcast that I'm involved in is we've never said no. Let's try it. Why not? We're doing this fun thing that's kind of new in this podcast world, and we're trying to be relevant and try to have fun doing it. So why not? We had the opportunity to interview the Tiger King from the Netflix show Tiger King, right? Everybody watched that in COVID. And we got that opportunity, and it's like, well, there's a lot of mixed feelings about that because animal rights is something that's important to me. And I said, well, let's at least give him the opportunity to kind of talk about it. And he called us or zoomed in from prison. So you see him in prison having this conversation, and we all walked away from it liking Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. So it's like chances and opportunities like that, people taking a chance on you where they don't necessarily need to. A publicist or somebody like Steve-O, he doesn't need to talk to us. We're not going to help him in any way, but he does it because he cares and he takes a chance on a small time independent media company in Missouri. And it's just helped us so much. And I'm always so surprised and humble with humility that people are willing to do that. So when we get the chance to do that to somebody else, I always want to jump at that opportunity.
Yeah, and I appreciate it so much. Like, honestly, after I got to watching your podcast, I was like, man, I don't think I'm experienced enough. I ain't going to lie. I mean, because here I am 3 episodes in, and you probably have 300 episodes in, if not more. So, it's like, it is. It's actually humbling. And then you sent me the episode where you interviewed Tracy Bird, and a little part of me got jealous. A little
Well,
part of me got jealous. Just like I said, I like country music. I mean, give me a good foot stomping song, a line dance song. I'm out there. I'm ready to cut a rug. But as far as this goes, I'm in like uncharted waters, and I'm like, don't know what I'm gonna do from the moment on. But I can tell you, Chad, it's been an honor having you on, buddy. I look forward to many more collaborations with you. And we're gonna call that a wrap.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the idea. I appreciate you having me on and being able to talk and tell our story a little bit. If you're viewing this or watching this, the barn.media, you can find all of our podcasts there. Do you care if I name just a couple real quick?
No, and if you'll go ahead and send those over to me through Messenger or whatever, when I upload this to YouTube, I'll post those in there for you.
That'd be awesome. The Parkland Podcast, Midwest Mixtape Podcast, Knuckleball Primetime, Vulgar Display of Power, Vulgar Display of Podcast, sorry, The Tippy Joe Show, Dirty Right Rear Podcast, Bible Time at the Barn, and then we have some others that don't post as regularly, as frequently, but those are some of the podcasts on our network. And again, thank you, man. I love what you're doing, and I'm happy to join you anytime. Maybe I'll have you as a reward, or not a reward, as a sign of thank you. I'll have you on my podcast sometime, and I'll get to interview you.
All right, I look forward to it. Like I said, I have a feeling this is going to be a start of a beautiful friendship. And I'm pretty sure you ever in this area and you just want to do something or whatever, just shoot me up real gladly. Whether it's come out where I'm carrying Okie in or whatever, look forward to working with many more.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.